Hi, Matthew.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Yeah, not bad. Not bad at all. Let me just see. Hi there, Palav. Will you be using some slides for this session?
Yeah, I will be using some slides and also I need your help to set up the background of layer 123 maybe. Yeah,
Okay. Would you mind switching your camera on so I can check?
sure. Let me do that. Yeah. Hope you can see
Okay.
me now.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can see you fine. Yeah, and you should be able to share your screen now. If you click the share screen button, you can get your slides up.
Okay. Yeah, hope it's visible now.
Yeah, I can see that. So what you want to do is just hit present, because at the moment I can just see PowerPoint, not the.
Yeah. You
Yeah,
can see in the slide share mode. Yeah.
yeah, it's perfect. And your your camera, your video will appear in the top right hand corner.
Yeah.
Oh, that's looking good. And you said you wanted some help with the background.
Yeah, exactly. I think that will be good.
Do you have one? Or I'll ask it.
Yeah, so it's saved in my desktop only, the layer
Okay.
123 step card.
Yeah. So if you let me. So if in the bottom right hand corner next to the video, there's a small arrow. If you click on that and select video settings.
Just let me check. I can see only the more I can see some streaming share computer signed.
No. So on the left hand side, there's a microphone icon and a camera icon. And there should be a small arrow next to the camera icon in the bottom left of your screen.
Okay, just let me check. Sometimes when you don't use the platforms, it's difficult, because we normally use blue jeans.
I see.
So
Yeah.
replace strange, but I can't see anything. I can see only the right hand side. There is a window, the my screen, and I can see yours basically without video.
Yeah. Let me see if I can. One moment. Let me see if I can send you a shot. Okay. Let me just send you an email of what I'm talking about.
Okay.
We've got 7 minutes, so we're
Okay.
okay. Where are you? Where are you based then, Pal? Are you in India?
So I'm based out of Gurgaon, just near to New Delhi.
Mm-hmm.
And it's headquarter of Bharti there only in Gurgaon, just very near to the airport.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Were you tuning in yesterday for this sort of standards Etsy day?
Okay.
Were you watching yesterday for the rest of the event?
No, I have not seen that. So I was logging for a few time because there were some couple of other workshops going on in parallel.
Mm.
So only few, yeah.
Okay, so I'm just sending that email across to you. That should be with you in a moment.
Okay. So I find something to use virtual background now. Maybe I just got to there. Let me see if I can. Video filters, or maybe I put it plus.
Oh, video. Yeah, choose virtual background. I think that should.
Yeah, I just find it something. Add image.
Let's see if this works.
Yeah, hopefully it will. So it's download. Yeah, I think it's perfect now, maybe.
Oh, yes, fantastic. Yeah, that looks good. Very on brand. Oh no, you're upside down now.
Yeah,
Yeah, there we go. Let's leave it like that.
perfect. Okay. I don't know whether the layer 1, 2, 3 is coming right, or it just goes to.
Yeah. No, you don't need to mirror it or anything. It's
Okay.
coming up accurate. Right. So I'm just going to look at the timings for this session. So we're going live at 5 past, and we'll run through. So because there's quite a few sessions, this will finish at 10:30.
Okay.
So we'll automatically end then and switch to the following presentation from Ariel. So do try and finish on time or early, just to make sure you don't get cut off.
Sure. So we have near about 25 minutes, if it starts at 11:05. So approximately 25 minutes. So I think I have to maybe end somewhere about 22 minutes, and maybe last 3 to 4 minutes for the questions, if any.
Yes, we'll see if there's any questions that come through, and I'll let you know.
Okay.
So yeah, if you need to get yourself a glass of water or get ready, now's the time, and then I'll
Sure.
let you know in about 3.5 minutes we can start.
Sure. So I'm just putting my email ID also in case somebody wants to reach.
Yes, it's good to share the email address.
Yeah. Where are you based, Matthew? London or?
Yeah, I'm in London.
Oh,
I'm in
great.
London. Yeah, so the office still isn't open. I went into the office a couple of weeks ago, but it's still not generally open. Won't be open for a couple
There
of
will be
months.
some relaxations in the coming time.
Yeah, will be. I hope so. Well, the cases are going up a bit in India now, aren't they?
Yeah, it's rising actually. It's rising. It's again worry situation. I don't know when it is going to end this overall journey.
Yeah, how are vaccinations going there? You've got a very large vaccine industry in India, obviously. So
Yeah,
hoping you can.
vaccinations are going good, but it's mostly for the aged people, more
Mm,
than 45 plus now.
yeah.
And but still we can't see actually the vaccination is going to be, maybe it will not make you worsen in that condition, but still you have to take precautions, because the people who are vaccinated are also getting, from the COVID.
Yeah.
Even the 2 doses they have taken, but still, so one has to be very careful, because obviously it safeguards, not to go into that worsen situation, but it does not guarantee that you will not have COVID again. So,
Absolutely.
let's see. Hopefully, this will end soon. I don't know when.
Yeah, hopefully soon enough. Okay, so a minute time, we'll get started.
Sure.
Yeah, I'd recommend having that on silent.
Yeah.
Okay, if you want to start your presentation slowly now, you may do so. I'll go on mute.
Okay, sure. Hi, good morning, everybody. So myself, Pallav Paliwal, I'm heading the Telco Cloud Strategy Architecture Engineering for Bharti Airtel India, and thanks to Layer 123 to give me an opportunity to showcase, the presentation on the end-to-end telco cloud automation. So today we will talk about, the automation. I think is a very common buzzword. Okay, when we talk about into cloud, we talk about disaggregation, bringing the horizontal cloud, then learning practices from the hyperscalers, and now how it can be much more matured into the telco cloud, which is mostly basic on the private cloud side. So we will talk about how these telco clouds are planned, these are ordered basically, and then they go into design phase, and then these phases basically are going to the deployment of these telco clouds, and then we talk about how the acceptance testing of these NFP infrastructure, and also the application part is done successfully, and then we talk about how these telco clouds are monitored. So most of you have obviously heard about how these clouds are getting designed, how these clouds are getting deployment. There is a lot of work basically which has been done into this deployment of the clouds in an automated manner. I will focus in my presentation today. When you talk about these disaggregated clouds, so I will also touch base what my journey in Bharti in last 1.5 years, and from where basically we have seen the requirement of these automated clouds coming on when you talk about the planning, ordering, and the design phase. So my focus will be majorly into these initial three steps there. So when we started our journey into Bharti, almost 1.5 year back on the horizontal cloud, because earlier, obviously there were a lot of vertical clouds, coming from best of food. And we decided, rather than putting these silo stacks, we should go for the disaggregation. We should plan for multi-tenancy basically, because the scale, the networks we play is about 140, 150 million subscribers today in the Volte. And if you talk about basically the packet core platform, the capacity is near about 13 to 14 Tbps. The scalability is quite high. The expectations are getting to expand these networks, in the coming time. So we can see, how the data is basically getting expanded, and we need more clouds to be getting deployed there. So the requirement from the enterprise team, who normally says the demand is basically, for 100 gigs of packet core cloud, or maybe 10 million subscribers, need from the voltage subscription perspective. So the demand was, that initially we were taking almost near about 1 or 2 months, to plan these disaggregated clouds. How this disaggregated cloud and the complexity comes because you select specific hardware which is based on HP, Dell, Supermicro, or whatever the vendor you select. Then you talk about basically the SDN, requirements. The SDN needs to be integrated. What kind of SDN? It's a not one player market. It can be two or two, three players basically. Like in Bharti, we have Nokia Noach and Cisco ACI. How you will basically integrate that and prepare the BOQs and the design part of those all scenarios. It also comes about that how you are choosing the VNF vendors, because when you talk about the multi-tenancy of these VNF application vendors, it can be Ericsson, it can be Cisco, it can be Affirmed, and how you're going to basically handle these complexities into this multi-tenancy environment. So the need of the hour is to basically automate these all clouds from the planning perspective, where I am trying to reduce basically the time from almost which was taking 1 or 2 months to a at least weeks time frame to get ready all the BOQs, and then moving these BOQs into the next phase, which is about preparing the automated designs. And these designs basically will give inputs towards to your cloud deployment. So you can see basically this is something which is not new, but is well practiced into the public clouds today. If you talk about AWS, Google, they're already practicing these, but they are practicing into their own boundaries, with their own application vendors. And the time is basically saying that we should bring this into the private clouds. We should say basically, okay, how the overall automation in terms of the telco cloud should take place, and then plan to order and order to design should also be a part of your overall cloud deployment. So it's about distributed DCs. It's about when the tomorrow ORAN will come and you have to deploy multiple sites of your DU. How you're going to basically do this planning? It can't be manual actually. It has to be automated, and that's where I'm just trying to explain how the catalog functioning. So you can see from the workflow, which is top level structure flow, that how the catalog. So you are a planner, okay? You select, okay, which application I want to deploy on which specific cloud. You have this catalog based driven tool. You have options. I will just go into the later slides also when you will understand how these inputs are fed from the planner and how is basically getting the automated outputs there. Then the next step is basically, when the catalog is getting selected there, the planner selects, you will have basically the workload specifications. The dimensioning of these application vendors like Ericsson, Affirmed, those are very different in nature. But it does not change very frequently. It changes whenever the new version comes into picture. So this kind of Tosca requirements, basically you have to, get it one time ready, and then basically you have to put in the lifecycle management of that backend database of the tool. Whenever you select, okay, I have to deploy the packet core coming from Affirmed or Cisco, you just select actually those template which comes from the workload specification. Then it comes, once you have defined your complete inputs, it about the packaging and placement. Okay, which specific server will go into which specific rack. It's about the data center planning, which I am talking about. You have a lot of tools. You have to just integrate into that process. You will be able to see a lot of Excel files, which will give you the output in the GUI, and it will also help you to ease whenever you tomorrow expand actually this same cloud for particular expansions into gigs or maybe TBPS. That will also give you the flexibility to basically see, okay, my data center is already having one rack, two racks, 15 servers. These are the placement and how you are going to put these new servers basically into the it basically blank, dot into the server rack. That's what packing and placement will go. And obviously the DC feasibility will be checked, as I told you, where exactly the DC is, in terms of it is empty, there are how many racks, what is the power scenario, and all those things basically are ready in terms of the database from the collecting from the database. Next is, that once you are ready with all these options, then the flow which you have maintained should also go into the procurement cycle, because we are not talking about a flow which is just to create a BOQ, but it should also be punched into a supply chain management system. That's where your procurement and approvals will get done automatically. Okay, and once it is approved into the system, it's already ordered to the vendor, and you basically have the capacity ready, to be delivered into your data center. And once it is delivered, then you will obviously do the physical and configuration parts there. But once the setup is physically ready, then we should also talk about how these automated deployments will happen from the cloud perspective. Your under cloud, your over cloud, your SAF, your SDN basically, which is getting integrated towards to the VIM, and then basically how the application will onboard from the Mano, and then how this is getting monitored, once you have the complete service stitched into the system. This is very important, in terms of this overall flow. The right hand side, I think most of the people are familiar, but I just again want to emphasize, what is the need of the hour to define these catalogs and make your planning and ordering and design process. This is just the flow chart which you can see, and you can see in left hand side it is the planning wizard, where the planner is basically able to see all those inputs, which he has to give it to the system. And then he has to basically make all the racking rules, he has to follow all the BOQ documents which he needs to verify, and then obviously the LLD documentation. While it is interacting with the right hand side, which is your more cloud automation front, where you can see the catalog tool is functional along with the other models like VNF wise workload model, which is getting packed. The server inventory is available from the right hand side, and then your feasibility of the checking of the models which are coming, all your inputs which are going into the LLD phase like IP networking, BOQ inputs, those are all basically coming from the database side, because it has been preloaded and we already know what is the requirement of the subnet into the OpenStack. You just need to give the subnet pools there. And then basically, the JSON file which is created will always give you the power to basically configure your servers, the RAID configurations, the BIOS settings, all into an automated manner. There is no manual intervention is required. So you have prepared well your LLDs, into an automated fashion manner, and then you are pushing basically all those inputs, which are captured into the JSON package towards to the automated script deployment of these clouds. And it can be used, whether you are using a VMware or whether you are basically using any of the container environment like OpenShift, or maybe a real-time operating system like RHEL and other etc. And then finally it comes, how the Mano is getting integrated. It gets a trigger that, okay, the application needs to be deployed on top of the cloud. The cloud environment is ready. The dimensioning which we discussed, obviously in the initial planning phase is getting meshed, and the application is getting, onboarded there. And then it talks about how the service stitching in all those scenarios getting, successfully delivered in terms of the testing done, from the acceptance test perspective from tools like Sparent and etc. So that's what is the persistence instance. You can see how it is getting committed. These are some of the tools, which we have used, obviously from the UI design perspective. It is IBM Carbon design, which we have used because IBM was one of the SI who worked with us in this overall journey. And some of the tools and most of the tools which you can see are open source based. SketchUp, AngularJS, Bootstrap UI, the Node.js for writing the BOQs and LD generation, the SQL DB or Mango DB you can use is the GitHub. So Trello is basically for the ideation and the project tracking, for the version track control, all this. And especially if you want to basically have your data center automated all the inventory, you can also use Netbox, or you can also integrate today whatever the inventory management tool you have into your system. And then obviously it is about OpenShift. You want to choose OpenShift, you want to choose any Kubernetes environment, any other environment, basically you can onboard there. This is our planning landing page. So you can see basically this is a service catalog looks like. Okay, and you will be able to select, okay, which virtual EPC you want to select it here. What is the OpenStack version you are going to select, or what is the DCN, whether you want to apply into distributed computing mode or basically a standard mode, you can just select there. Then you want to deploy edge site because obviously it will have a cups and non-cups model. Then when you want to go a far edge site, you want to choose basically what kind of VNF and all those selections you are going. And then you can see how this is a map of India. You can see our data centers are located and distributed across India. You just have to select, okay, which DC you want to see. And this overall database which you are trying to, feed into the system also gets loaded into the same manner. And this gives you the flexibility that you can even see how many sites you have deployed, what are the VNFs, in terms of these colors. You can see the Ericsson EPC is deploying in terms of 12%, then any other EPC, which is just the example figures, which I'm trying to give you to have the, overall view of your telco cloud, from this tool. Uh, these are the some of the templates which we have designed. So when you talk about, you have to go into the dimensioning phase, you have to start making all those inputs, from the overall perspective that how this application dimensioning needs to be fitted into the system. You need to be very careful. You have the two ways to do this. One is basically that either you select a template which have the overall dimensioning. That's a very standard template which is given to each of the VNF vendor, and he puts all the information and you pick it from that specific file. Second thing is, if you want to have more ease, you can also define these all logics basically into your GUI, which is coming from the same template. And you just have to enter, if you do want to change any of the VM type, any of the counts, any of the hyperthreading, any of the storage requirements, if you want to choose, you can basically, plus minus into that. So this gives also you the opportunity to, from a planner's perspective, to change the things. So whenever there is a design change, whenever there is a dimensioning change from the planning requirements, you can easily do that there. This is just an example of again the BOF config page, where we're trying to basically have, okay, which data center, suppose if it's in Delhi or if it's basically in some other place of Italy, so you just need to select a specific data center and the location. You just need to select which server configuration you are going to have, whether you want to take HP, whether you want to have basically Gigabyte, whether you want to have Dell. You can just select it there, and the backend configuration of the server dimensioning is already loaded into the system. That's a standard process, which is running into the backend tool. You select your VNF, you select basically which processor you are going to choose, whether you want to choose a Skylake, whether you want to choose a Ice Lake, so you can have the flexibility to choose your different processors. And then you select, which fabric you are going to choose, whether in our case, there are two fabrics which we are using, Cisco and Nuage. So you can select, both these two scenarios, there. Then what is the architecture you are going to select, whether it's a non-cups model, whether it's a cups model. Then you go into a VNF selection mode, whether you are going to deploy MME, SP gateway, whether you want to go and deploy the AltoStar DU. You have all the basically, kind of versions available, which normally you were giving inputs into Excels, maintaining those Excels, giving it to the supply chain management. And then basically this process obviously takes time because there is a lot of complexity involved from the disaggregation perspective of those stacks. So here you can see, you can also select the version. So if you want to say that, okay, my VNF version 6.2 is running today, or version 1 is available, but you want to still use the older version because it is stable. You have the flexibility to choose their templates, okay, and you can just easily, go and select into the system that, okay, I want to go for 6.2 version 1, and it gives you the overall summary, and you put the commit page, and that gives you, into this overall BOQ generation, which is done automatically with all logics available. You can see the hardware BOQs, you can see the rack BOQs, you can see the fabric BOQs, software BOQs are getting generated. Now you have to click into this, individual rows. and you will be able to see the outputs into some way here. You can see the hardware BOQs like here, how the server port calculations, how the switch details basically are getting generated. You can see we have already given the dimensioning from the VNF, and now we are able to derive how many storage capacity we need, how many director we need, in terms of server, how many overcloud controllers, how many computes, and even in computes, there are type of sizes like A1 and A2. So how many A1 and A2 servers you want to use it. That's actually the beauty of the system, is that you are just giving the dimensioning logic to the catalog tool, and you are giving the inputs from the planner perspective, and it is generating you all the server BOQ requirements, switch details, how many leaves you require, how many ISP leaf switches you require, how many spines you require basically into the system. Then it goes to the BOQ summary. So this BOQ summary gives you the rack, your dimensioning style. In the data center, you may have 2 to 3 racks basically. So where you want to place exactly those servers, in which specific row, in which specific you want to place basically your like 34U, 35U, or 38. So you can play with that. That logic is still defined into the backend database, and where I show you the map of India, where you can access specifically those kind of controls, and you can easily twist actually those inventories, that okay, my 100 gigs is already installed into that specific one rack, but there is a space of 2 to 3 servers, and how I'm going to intelligently utilize those spaces actually. So this gives you the complete inventory management linkage to this tool. It gives you the flexibility to define those expansions very quicker in a respective mode. uh, this is my management console, in terms of all the fabric BOQs which we discussed, the switch details and all. If you see, when we go into the low level design, I think out of 30 sheets today, we have already automated 17 to 18 sheets. So if we talk about the IP planning, this takes almost a lot of time. Okay, so why should we plan in an older style all those IP plannings of these clouds, when we already have a flexibility that, okay, if you know that in EPC, this is the way how the IP planning works, you just define the key logics there. And then you try to define, okay, how many subnets you want. So as a planner, I don't want to go into the niche of the details, basically, that what kind of integrities I need to use from the IP planning perspective. I'm just a planner. I'm going to put all the inputs. Okay, I need 7 subnets, one subnet for OSP provisioning, one subnet for the internal, one subnet for the storage, then maybe tenant, external. So I will just give IP pools, and you will see, how the automatic, assignment of these subnets are broken into different IPs which are required by each of the requirement into the LLD generation phase. So this is the ease, and there you can see all the files are getting generated now. The Pixie Mac, which is basically the ILO part of your servers, those all the configurations are getting automated. Your NFVI IP design, this is one of the sheet. Then obviously, what are the port bondings in terms of all the GE ports? That is getting, giving you the, complete set of automated inputs, which is coming. And once you, put a time into this tool, so we obviously have taken, initially 3 to 4 months to design these tools, getting consulted to all the vendors, getting them aligned basically from the dimensioning perspective. But now the task is very easy. You can have these BOQs generated into minutes actually, and you just have to give the inputs, and even 1 or 2 times you can just cross verify that whether the functional logic is working fine as per your requirement. And those kind of validation checks also you can make it into the system. I will just go through maybe one very simple demo, maybe that's a video. So you can see how the JSON file is getting created, how the IPs are giving, and how the automated, sheets are basically getting generated there. So I think just go to the demo, maybe a 1 minute, you can see. So there you can see how the MAC details are getting automated. So you commit for the LLD design. You have your JSON file, altered here. So this gives you the pretty JSON basically to have your format into aligned mode. So all the IPs which we are trying to validate, which has to be given into the tool. And this here you can see basically all the IP planning has been done into an automated way. So you can see whatever the subnets you are trying to put, these are giving you the automated, fraction modes basically. So this is what, which we analyzed, that if we can reduce these time frames, and if we can talk about, how in the ORAN, how in the 5G slicing, how in these 5G, SA and NSA models, how these things can be automated, it will really give you the flexibility to have the complete planning, ordering, and design into automated mode. Yes, it takes a time. It has a complexity basically to align all the disaggregated vendors, but at the end of the day, it gives you a lot of savings, from the planning perspective, the resource perspective, obviously your capex, in terms of getting those maintenance of these, entire clouds from the planning, ordering, and design also give you this flexibility to reduce that capex and opex part. That's it from my side. Maybe I don't know. I'm on time, but any questions, team?
Hi there. Yes, thank you for that fantastic presentation. We don't have any questions, so I think we'll be able to wrap up early and let people get a cup of tea or coffee before the next session.
Sure. Thanks a lot. Thank